Tonight in this broadcast, the country should expect 20 Cuban doctors here in the country as they arrive tonight in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Also tonight, we'll be telling you what it means for the residents of Uhuru Owino as following the court ruling that they should be compensated 1.3 billion shillings following the lead poisoning about 11 years ago. We'll be telling you more about that. But first, let's take a look at stories making headlines tonight. Well, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us here at Ebru Primetime News. This, the 17th day of July 2020. Trust you're keeping well. Trust you had a wonderful week. This is Ebru Primetime News. My name is Rachelm. Our sign language interpreter for tonight is Joyce Wairimu. Now, Chief Justice David Maraga has advised the new Auditor General Nancy Gathungu not to work with external forces in discharging her mandate. During the swearing-in ceremony, Maraga urged Gathungu to be firm and be ready to deal with form of intimidations, either from county or national government boss. And as our reporter Jeff Haemba reports, the new Auditor General has a myriad of activities in dealing with a backlog of audit reports.
I, Nancy Janet Kafoi Gathungu, having been appointed the Auditor General under the Public Audit Act 2015, do solemnly swear.
Nancy Janet Kabui Gathungu on Friday took the oath of allegiance, vowing to defend the Kenyan Constitution as the new Auditor General.
Impartially and to the best of my ability, discharge the trust and perform the functions and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment.
Gathungu now fills the gap left by her predecessor Edward Ouko, who served the country for 8 years and a renewable term. The new Auditor General, who is 30 billion Kenyan shillings net worth, has announced to serve the country without fear nor favor.
This has occasioned a backlog of audit reports, and my priority, therefore, will be to put mechanisms to clear the audit backlog as soon as possible, so that entities may hold their annual general meetings and development partners can also get feedback on spending of the projects they support.
The heavy task now awaiting Gathungu, who hopes to follow the footsteps of Edward Ouko, is how to handle the backlog of the audit queries, ranging from the county government, parastatals, among others.
As you may be aware, I'm assuming office at challenging times, owing to the gap that existed between the expiry of the term of my former colleague and predecessor, FCPA Edward Ouko, and my assuming office.
Audited report for the 2018-2019 financial year were due by December last year, but the exit of Edward Ouko in August 2019 meant that he could not conclude the work. The entrant of Gathungu comes at a time when President Uhuru Kenyatta is so much determined in the fight against corruption. The Ethics and the Anti-Corruption Commission (EACC), Director of the Criminal Investigations (DCI), usually relies on the Auditor General report to prosecute corruption cases. And by now all eyes are set at Gathungu to harness the process.
Very often it is the case in leadership positions in this country that you will encounter challenges. As it were, you will step on toes. You will step on toes, some of them very thick, including, if need, if it is obligatory, that of the Chief Justice.
Chief Justice David Maraga, who presided over the event, urged Gathungu to ensure she is not intimidated by any external or internal forces in fulfilling her mandate. The swearing-in ceremony was attended by the head of the Public Service, Joseph Kinywa.
But you are required to discharge your duty because you are going to audit our accounts as well. So you are going to have to discharge your duty without fear or favor.
The challenges lying ahead as a result of the long lead time before your appointment and swearing in. For instance, there are certain urgent financial statements awaiting your certification, which have significant impact on the entire economy of the country.
Nancy got the approval for the position, which was re-advertised after 17 shortlisted candidates, initially shortlisted, failed to meet the minimum threshold for the final shortlist in December 2019. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haemba.
Now, the ruling by the court to award residents of the Owino Uhuru slum in Mombasa County over 1.3 billion shillings in compensation for lead poisoning has come as a welcome relief, with many of the residents now hoping that it will be the end of their tribulations. Now, the end of one chapter, however, opens another one of uncertainty and malice, as the residents now claim some are out to fleece them of their new-found fortune.
So it has been a long journey since 2009, when we first tested 3 people from this community and my son.
After a decade in the corridors of justice, residents of Owino Uhuru settlement in Jomvu constituency, Mombasa County, are welcoming their newfound fortune.
Sasa mimi naomba vile serikali imeamua kesi yetu vile ishaamuliwa, tupate kusaidiwa, tutibiwe wale ambao walikuwa na ugonjwa, tupate kupona.
And in 2014 we managed to shut down the smelter that was located within the community. Unfortunately, many people were already positive for lead poisoning.
That comes as a welcome relief after the decade-long streak of pain and suffering.
Mtoto wangu akapatikana kama positive hiyo 2014. Mtoto aliendelea kugonjeka, ilipofika 2016 alizidiwa sana. Nikambidi nimkimbize Makadara mwezi wa 9 tarehe 23. Ilipofika tarehe 30 mwezi wa 9 huo mtoto akaaga dunia.
Hili ilikuwa ni sumu, kumbe na hatujui. Haka tukabahatika mtoto akawa ameathirika, akakufa baada ya miaka 2.5. Hatukuchoka kutafuta, tulitafuta mwingine, mimba ikaje ikatoka. Hatukuchoka tena, tukaendelea tukapata mtoto 2014 ambaye mamake baada ya mtoto kuzaliwa akakaa wiki moja na akafa, mama mwenyewe.
It has been 10 years of squalid living conditions, with some residents paying the ultimate price.
Yesterday's ruling to us is a breath of fresh air. Though it has come late, many of us who have fought this fight with us have already died. They will never see justice. But this will at least enable us to compensate their families, so that they understand that they were fighting for a certain thing and they have achieved it.
Thursday's decision to award the residents over 1.3 billion shillings in compensation will now, hopefully, change the tide of neglect whose effects are still fresh in the area.
Ikuwa nimeanza kitu kwa shingo kufura, kwa shingo mara natetemeka, kila mara nasikia baridi. Ikaendelea hivyo kwenda hospitalini, venye matokeo yalikuwa yamekuja, wakaniambia ni lead na hiyo uvimbe wa shingo haiza rudi mpaka ile nini ya reli rudi chini.
The decision by Justice Anne Omolo has, however, seemingly closed one chapter of pain and death, and in the process opened another of infighting, with some residents now said to be planning to reap where they did not sow.
Kwa sababu kuna watu sasa wengine ambao wamekuja wageni, maana wamesikia kuna compensation itakuja Owino Uhuru, lakini tunaashua watu wa Owino Uhuru, kuna mmoja ambaye amepigania haki, ambaye amevumilia mateso ya kuishi Owino Uhuru ambaye ataachwa.
This coming with fears that the state could appeal the decision and cut their short-lived hope.
You know that there are elements within government that will try to play smart. There are those that will think they have to go and appeal. We urge them to remember that the children of Owino who have paid with their blood, we are waiting for them after 90 days. If they don't pay us, they will understand what the power of the people.
State and non-state actors in the center of the suit now have 90 days to pay the billions. But the residents say it is not yet over.
The government has been given 120 days to clean up the soil, the walls, the trees, the water, everything in Owino Uhuru. After 120 days, if they fail to do, then they have to pay 700 million to us as Center for Justice. And we will come back here and do that work.
Now, the Ministry of Health has reported a high success rate in the home-based care program for COVID-19 asymptomatic patients since it was rolled out in June. However, Kenyans have been asked to adhere to precautions to prevent a spike in cases, even as 20 Cuban doctors have been brought into the country to help in managing the COVID-19 pandemic. And as Winnie Lubembe reports, the caseload has risen to 12,062.
Speaking in Murang'a County, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe said the specialized doctors will be stationed at the Kenyatta University Hospital for up to 6 months.
It is not going to be split around the country. And there are specialized doctors in internal medicine, oncology, cardiology, renal, and pediatrics. With the COVID-19 cases rising, these specialized doctors will go a long way in supporting our doctors in managing the disease.
And as the doctors settle, an integrated molecular imaging center is also set up at the facility.
The center, which will be ready for use in about 9 months, we will see no need for Kenyans to go to India or South Africa to access PET scan machines and other key equipment to diagnose and treat cancer. The center will also set up the first public manufacturing plant for consumables used in the PET scan machines.
This even as 389 more patients have tested positive for the novel coronavirus within the last 24 hours from 3,545 samples tested.
In those cases, 385 are Kenyans, while 4 are foreigners, while in terms of gender, once again, 260 are male and 129 are female. In terms of age, the youngest is a 5-month-old infant, while the oldest is 95.
Nairobi continues to lead with 6,761 cases, Mombasa 1,794 cases, Kiambu 666 and Murang'a 17 cases. The CS, however, commended Murang'a County for surpassing the 300-bed capacity isolation centers order by the president. The country has also seen a high number of recoveries, most of whom are from home-based care.
So far, the clients who are put on home-based care have all recovered. We have not recorded any mortality from home-based care. For example, today we have discharged 1,126 people. And out of these, 781 cases are from home-based care and only 345 from hospital or institutional care. So this is the direction we want to take, hoping and praying that majority of our people will still be asymptomatic. It is imperative that we go this way because as our numbers increase, the cost of caring for a COVID-19 positive case who is simply asymptomatic, if you had to put you here, for example, on average you'll spend 21,000 shillings just to monitor you.
5 others have succumbed to the illness, bringing the country's death toll to 222. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
Let's take a look at some politics now. Deputy President William Ruto's allies are vowed to stay put even as their stay in Jubilee becomes more and more unbearable. And as Eric Munene tells us, the composition of House committees is going to hurt the president's legacy, according to the Ruto camp. Have a look.
Deputy President William Ruto's allies have now regrouped and are taking the battle to their nemesis' doorstep. The Jubilee Party's Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositanyi increasing the pressure on his party boss Rachelm Tuju to come clean on the ruling party's accounts.
How can the ruling party be broke? Chama ambayo imepewa pesa zaidi ya bilioni 1.5 billion. Na nikizungumza hivi, unaccounted for is about 1.3 billion.
Kositanyi, who has lately taken the role of Ruto camp's spokesperson, even daring those calling for his ouster from the post to go ahead.
Kufukuza Deputy Secretary General is the same criteria unatumia kufukuza Secretary General. Lazima muite National Delegates Conference. Na kabla hamujaita National Delegates Conference, tuanze kwanza uchaguzi kutoka mashinani, alafu tukutane basi pale Kasarani.
Wakati tulikaa chini na tukatoa viongozi ya vyama, pia William Ruto alitoa Secretary General Caleb Kositanyi kama Secretary General wa chama ya Jubilee, tukiwa stakeholders.
Party Secretary General Rachelm Tuju has in the past dismissed claims by those allied to the DP that its officials were involved in squandering funds. Further adding the claims are baseless, saying that they are not worth their time. The Ruto wing that continues to suffer both inside and outside both houses of parliament, firmly staying put even when all indications show that they are no longer welcome to the party.
There was
URP and TNA, but a party was formed. So I think what is important for us is to continue listening to the people on the ground. And if at that time we think that it's untenable to be in Jubilee, we will leave. But for now, we are not leaving Jubilee, at least not without a fight.
But even as President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner Raila Odinga moved to consolidate their support in both houses of parliament, the road ahead might not be as smooth as the two envisioned, according to those allied to the DP.
The opposition have been put in key committees. And that is one thing Uhuru Kenyatta will live to regret. Because when you are a Jubilee member, you can be impressed upon to toe the party line. But when you're an opposition member, you don't have to toe the party line. They don't have to toe the Jubilee. And remember, they are not even, ODM is not an affiliate party of Jubilee.
ODM party won big from the parliamentary committee changes after its members landed prestigious posts, with Raila's allies taking charge of at least 4 crucial National Assembly committees.
ODM has put their best soldiers in those committees. When you have people like Olago Oluoch, when you have Amolo Otiende, you have Peter Kaluma, those are lawyers par excellence. If you see the people that Jubilee has put, they haven't put their best foot soldiers forward. So they are going to live to regret.
The Deputy President Thursday broke his silence on the purge of his allies and called for unity within the Jubilee Party in order for the government to effectively serve Kenyans. Eric Mnene, Ebru TV.
Now, Ford Kenya party officials have railed at a section of the party whom they have accused of hiring goons to break into the party headquarters. The group claims that early this week, thugs were sent to their offices by the rebel party officials with the intention of occupying the office. Dolly Mwirigi tells us more.
Kenya, Simba, Simba, Simba.
They struggled to sing, with voices forcibly high but evidently laced with indefinite uncertainty. Today's address coming hot on the heels of the Sunday attack, which the leaders now term as a coup, which has drawn the mantra in disarray. Both sides now crying foul over inequality, injustices and mischief. Speaking at the press briefing at their offices today, the Secretary of Ford Kenya Party Nairobi branch, David Burale, condemned the act of attack on the party headquarters.
As the Ford Kenya Nairobi branch, we want to be clear that we distance ourselves from acts of the coup led by Tongoreni Member of Parliament, Eseli Simiyu, and his Kandui counterpart, Wafula Munyinyi. Ford Kenya is a party that believes in democratic principles of usawa, haki na ukweli. And neither in our constitution or beliefs do we subscribe to coups or any other orthodox means of capturing power.
This situation now becoming just one of the countless futile efforts by the Mulembe nation to unite, a situation that has become an elephant in the lawyer room.
The Secretary General of a party like Eseli, who is supposed to plan and popularize activities of the party, has become a crybaby all the time, crying that the party has failed to achieve this and that, yet is the one who should be spearheading the process.
In the last 4 general elections in the country, the Luhya community has been a house with different fathers. This cutting back on the region's numerical strength, and with 18 months to the election year, internal divisions rage on without a clear candidate for the house on the hill.
We therefore, as Nairobi branch, want to declare our unwavering support to our party leader, Honorable Senator Moses Masika Wetangula, that we are fully behind him, and whoever thinks will use criminals to capture the leadership of this party will be resisted at all costs.
The recent wrangles forced the Lion Party to run from 2 centers, one at the party officials' residence at Oledime Road and the other near Leading City Hotel in Upper Hill. The Nairobi Ford Kenya party leader still declares the support with their party leader Moses Wetangula, but are calling upon the DCI to take upon the matter and deal with their rivals. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Dolly Mwirigi.
Well, thank you, Dolly Murigi, for that report. Now, just days after surviving a spirited fight to oust her from office, Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu is locked in another battle with members of the County Assembly over this year's slashed budget. The governor is accusing the County Assembly of disregarding the law by mutilating her budget proposals for the 2020-2021 financial year and failing to pass the vote on account to settle political scores.
Salaries for county employees and payments to merchants who supply goods and services may be delayed unless MCAs reconvene to resolve the fresh standoff on budget. The Controller of Budget Friday summoned Kitui Speaker George Ndoto, Assembly Clerk Elijah Mutambuki, and Budget Committee Chairman Boniface Kila to explain the failure to pass the vote on account, which allows the expenditure by county governments. The MCAs who had been locked in impeachment tussle with the governor passed this year's budget last week, but reduced the estimates submitted to them for approval by a whopping 949 million from 11.2 billion to 10.3 billion. The Assembly slashed the budget of nearly all county departments, with the biggest casualties being Ministry of Trade, where its allocation of 402 million was slashed to 220 million. This, Ngilu claims, amounts to overstepping their constitutional mandate by illegally imposing another political party's manifesto for her to implement. Kitui County Textile Center, Kikotech, one of Ms. Ngilu's flagship projects, which has won national and global accolades for making government uniforms and protective clothing during the COVID-19 pandemic, is among the casualty project denied funds. In the budget estimates submitted to the Assembly, Ngilu had proposed to expand Kikotech by spending 30 million to establish new textile factories in Mwingi and Mutomo towns. The 30 million, which was reallocated to other projects by MCAs, was to be used to renovate existing facilities and convert them to factories, to create jobs for youth, to generate more revenue for development, besides boosting the economies of the two towns. The governor was hoping to create about 1,000 jobs with the new Kikotech branches, but also generate more than 500 million in domestic revenues through the sale of the textile products. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
Now, away from matters politics, rape and defilement cases in Kakamega County have been on the rise, according to a group of youth in the region. Now, parents have been blamed for failing to protect their young ones during this holiday period. The county has so far recorded 6,686 cases of sexual violence against children since January this year.
There has been a growing concern in the country in regards to cases of defilement. Since the onset of COVID-19, cases of sodomy, rape and defilement have been on the rise. Majorly affected are the young girls in the area who have been forced to end their academic aspirations due to early pregnancies.
We, adolescent girls and young women, have gathered in Lugari Sub-County, Kakamega County, to discuss the challenges and to provide solutions in regards to teenage pregnancy and lack of engagement in decision-making processes.
Speaking in Lugari Sub-County, Kakamega County, girls have now declared that they will be involved in every part of discussing adolescent girls and women issues.
We have noted that during this COVID period, there are increased incidences of teenage pregnancies and sexual violence. Parents in both rural and urban areas have neglected their role in providing reproductive health information to girls and young women.
Wasichana wengi wamebeba mimba za mapema, wengine wako shuleni wameacha shule kwa sababu za mimba za mapema.
Hatuna mtu wa kuambia problems tunapitia. Parents pia hawako free kuongelea hizi vitu.
Through empowerment, they say their voices can only be articulated not by any other person but the affected girl.
Early teenage pregnancy of the girl child. Yeah, we have poor menstrual hygiene. Most of us have been lacking proper menstrual hygiene as a result of lack of sanitary pads. Also, we've been having sexual harassment, being harassed by people around, especially the elderly. The people we are supposed to call our fathers are the one harassing us when it comes to sexually.
Kuna vijana wanaenda kuchunga huko ambao unapata rape cases zinafanyika kule, defilement zinafanyika kule.
na wende ikawa wakati mtoto anarudi nyumbani anaogopa kuambia mzazi, baadaye napatikana mtoto ana mimba, wakati tunaanza kufuatilia ndo tunapata ilikuwa defilement case.
Parents in both rural and urban areas have neglected their role in providing reproductive health information to girls and young women, according to the youth. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.
Now, family in Naivasha is spending sleepless nights following the controversial disappearance of their 17-year-old son 3 months ago in one of the largest game sanctuaries in the lakeside town. Days of searching and prayers have yielded nothing but pain and tears as part of his clothes were recovered in Osirian Sanctuary a week after his disappearance.
The hopes of Joseph Irungu's family are from 2 students from Maela Secondary School who disappeared 3 months ago have been dashed after the recovery of his clothes inside the sanctuary. According to his father, John Mungai, his second-born son disappeared on the 20th of April while on his way home, and efforts to track him had been fruitless.
Tulianza kutafuta mtoto na nikaenda nikaripoti pale baada ya wiki moja. Na ofisa hawa kunisaidia shauri waliniambia labda mtoto ameenda kutukasi, tugojee labda atarudi. Muda ikaenda na muda hiyo mpaka ikawa miezi miwili imepita.
An emotional Mungai said they have visited several police stations and the sanctuary at the center of the saga but received no help. According to the residents of Kahuho village in Maela location, this is not the first disappearance case. While blaming the security guards in the sanctuary for recklessness, the residents noted that 5 people had disappeared in the sanctuary and their remains have never been recovered. One of the area leaders, Stephen Mudhua, said the sanctuary, which harbors hundreds of wild animals, had turned out to be a threat to their lives and that of their livestock.
Tangu wakati huo kijana alipopotea, tumekuwa na changamoto mingi kwa sababu imekuwa ni eneo la kupiga duru kila siku. Kwa sababu kijaribu kuangalia wakazi wa hapa si wengi vile. Tumekuwa tukipiga duru kuanzia asubuhi, tunatafuta reinforcement watu kutoka maeneo mengine, tukaweza kutafuta huyo kijana.
He said that they'd been conducting daily searches in the area with the hope that they will get the body, but this had turned out to be futile. This was echoed by former area MCA Kariuki Mujinga, who said the sanctuary was a threat to their lives due to the high number of roaming wildlife into the neighboring villages.
Iko mnyama anaitwa nyati. Nyati utakuta mara nyingi zimetoka huko ndani na zinakuja pande hii, zinaruka waya. Lakini wakati imeruka waya, ikiguzwa tu hawa askari ya swaga, unakuta wameshika watu na wanapelekwa kotini, unakuta wamepigwa fine zaidi ya 10,000.
An aunt to the missing minor, Lucy Wangui, told of the family's pain as they continued their daily searches with hope of ever getting the teenager alive diminishing.
Wanatusumbua sana. Watoto wetu wanaishi kwa uoga. Sasa tungeomba serikali ingilie kati na sisi tupate msaada. Sisi ni wa Kenya na tunatoa ushuru na tunafanya kazi kama Wakenya wengine ili tuweze kujimudu kimaisha. Kwa hivyo hata sisi watushughulikie.
A senior police officer at Kongoni Police Station said that a missing person file had been opened after the case was reported. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
Now, moving on, the engagement of 55,000 Nairobi youth in the Kazi Mtaani program has improved their income streams and effectively helped in reducing crime rates in the city. Principal Secretary for State Department for Correctional Services, Zainab Hussein, says the project targets members of the community affected by the surging pandemic. The money paid will cushion the families and boost the local economy.
Speaking on Friday at Waruku village during the official launch of the Kazi Mtaani in Nairobi County, State Department PS Zainab Hussein said the president has allocated 10 billion shillings for the project to be rolled out in all the 47 counties.
I'd like to mention that in the first phase, which began April to June, the government had targeted 8 counties with a budget of about 760 million. It was extremely successful.
PS Zainab Hussein said Kazi Mtaani targets 900 informal settlements, with each settlement having 2,000 youths. Other components of the program include uplift the living standards of the people living in informal settlements by giving them income streams, skills transfer to the youth, cleaning up their localities, among others.
The government has now scaled this up to all counties, 47 counties, targeting 900 informal settlements and with a budget of 10 billion. So as you can see, progressively, it's a project that the government is very much committed to.
Nairobi Regional Commissioner Wilson Jenga said that since the inception of Kazi Mtaani, they have witnessed crime rates going to very low numbers.
This place was chosen to serve as the launching place. So we are grateful the PS has found the time to come to launch for us. But after this program began, we are seeing crime rate has dropped significantly to the extent that like this week, we have been reporting 0.
Hussein said as the program progresses, the government will incorporate the youth in other development projects like construction of roads, schools and hospitals, as well as providing them with trees for beautification of their respective areas.
We're also going to target public utilities, rehabilitation, like public schools, hospitals, building toilets, and such things. And I think with the upgrading of the kind of work these youth do, will also bring up the skills that this youth have.
Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Now, still on the same, the government has hired another 283,000 young persons in the second phase of Kazi Mtaani program as part of cushioning families in informal settlements affected by COVID-19. Unlike the first phase that focused on hygiene, the current program will target improving infrastructure, mainly in the informal settlements. The second phase comes as the government announced that it had reduced the daily stipends to the youth with a view of accommodating more in the ongoing program. According to the PS of Housing, Charles Hinga, the 6-month project would target youth in all the 47 counties as part of the social protection program.
We ask the young people to give back to the society, to give back to the public by engaging in something which is called public good. But most important is to keep the money circulating in the informal settlement, so that when they get paid, they buy food from Mama Mboga, then Mama Mboga keeps her shop open and also make sure whoever they have employed.
Speaking in Naivasha after touring various development projects, Hinga said that the second phase was keen on improving roads and structures. Under the program, the government would abandon the use of contractors to improve structures and instead use the community.
What we call extended public works program. For instance, we're going to bring young people to finish this dormitory here. We get some skilled labor, we buy materials, and then they come and finish it. Why we want to do that is because these are labor-intensive activities, so it means we can be able to absorb a lot of labor.
The PS, who was accompanied by senior government officers, announced that the daily stipends paid to the youth had been reduced from 650 shillings to 455 per day.
Huko mtaani ndani hata bulldozer hawezi ingia. Lakini they still have roads which are dirty, they're mixed na sewage, so we are going to dig them up and hand pack them and use what we call cobblestone. Tumeanza huko Machakos already, Mua Road. There is a road where they are already doing 1 kilometer using cobblestone.
Principal Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Interior, Kangethe Thuku, decried the rising cases of teenage pregnancies and the use of drugs and illicit brews. He noted that the Kazi Mtaani initiative would empower the youth from the illegal vices which had risen due to the current pandemic.
Ujumbe wetu tukiongea na vijana tunawaambia kwamba wajiepushe kwa haya maneno ambayo itadhuru afya yao.
Thuku praised the role played by members of the provincial administration in hiring and counseling the youth. Well, on that note, we take a very short break, but when we come back with more news from the business and international world, stay with us. Welcome back to the broadcast. Now, 250 million shillings dam water project funded by the African Development Bank will improve the supply of the water to residents of Kasese area, Kachaliba, West Pokot County and the surrounding areas. Central Rift Valley Works Development Agency Chief Executive Officer Engineer Hosea Wendot said the project will be completed between 6 to 9 months to ensure the residents in the region have adequate water supply. He says the agency has identified several projects, including boreholes, water pans, and water for school initiative in the area, adding that the agency seeks to improve water supply in the region.
Ambayo itaweza kusaidia watu wengi na iwe inasaidia mifuko na pia watu waweze kukunywa. Tulikuja hapa mwaka jana kuangalia hiyo sehemu ambayo tunataka kuweka miradi. Hapa tumekuja kutayarisha site, ndio baadaye tutakuja kufanya ground breaking ambayo itafanywa katika wiki zijazo.
Location ambayo iko na peculiarity inaitwa Kasese. Kasese wakiwa ward ambayo iko Pokot North haina maji hata kidogo, isipokuwa ya mvua tu ya Mungu ile ikinyesha. Na every donor na serikali kuu na county government imejaribu kuchimba boreholes, hatujafaulu. So kwa hivyo mwaka jana kwa hali ya kipekee ilikuwa na cross border meeting kati ya nchi ya Uganda na ya Kenya, na president wetu Uhuru Kenyatta mwenyewe alilead team, tukaenda Moroto Uganda, tukapokelewa na president ya Uganda Yoweri Museveni, na tukaenda benchmarking kuangalia dams ya pastoralists ambayo itaitwa peace dams, kuunganisha ma communities. Tukaenda kubeba dam Uganda na Kamole na kila mahali.
Imetengewa hii dam ni sehemu ambayo ina mashamba za wenyewe, na tunajaribu kuangalia ama kuangazia kama viongozi jinsi tunaweza kuwasaidia wale watakaoathirika na maji, sababu watakuwa displaced. Kwa hivyo tumeongea nao na tunatazamia kwamba watapata kusaidika vizuri, lakini mradi wameipokea na hakuna upingamizi yeyote, ila tu ni vile wanatazamia tu kwamba at least waangaliwe kwa chochote ambacho itawezekana.
Now to some international news. The continuing spread of COVID-19 in the US is making it very difficult for some Chinese AU pairs to go back home. While they wait for flights to become available, they've been forced to spend money for temporary visas to avoid being deported.
Chinese au pairs skydiving, sledding, traveling and visiting theme parks, all part of their experience as childcare workers in the US. But COVID-19 took all that fun away.
The main purpose of this program is to see American, to meet people from different culture. But after the pandemic, we lose all of these things. We're stuck in the house. The only thing we can do is to take care of the kids.
Au pairs are young foreigners who spend a year living with host families to care for their children. Sponsor companies in the US help them get visas and find a family. They don't earn much, around $200 a week, plus a room and meals. But some au pairs from China now face shelling out cash for a new visa because their sponsor, Cultural Care Au Pair, dragged its feet booking flights home. In a statement to VOA, Cultural Care blamed the pandemic. Flights, specifically to China, have been difficult to obtain, frequently cancelled. Zoe Lee found plenty of flights, but a Cultural Care agent said the company wouldn't reimburse her if she booked the ticket herself.
She only told me $4,000 is over our budget to buy a ticket for an au pair. I don't really know what that means. We don't deserve it, or...
With au pairs like Lee caught in limbo, Cultural Care offered two options. Their host families could pay a $1,500 fee, and the au pairs would get a 60-day J1 visa extension at no extra cost. Or the au pairs could pay $455 for a temporary tourist visa. For au pairs, that's a lot of money.
I go back to
to China, I have to be quarantined, live in a hotel, and then we have to pay for every day. So I just don't want to spend any money here.
This host mom got an email from Cultural Care about the $1,500 option, but it didn't mention a justification for the large fee.
It was sort of a blanket email saying, hey, your au pair can extend for 2 months. You need to pay us $1,500 for this to happen. But there was no sort of understanding that she's going to be staying with you anyway.
Cultural Care did not respond to VOA's specific questions about its return flight obligations. The agency did say, however, that it had now booked flights for all Chinese au pairs with expiring visas and was at work on upcoming cases. The industry's trade group has told the White House international exchange programs, including au pairs, are projected to lose some $233 million in business because of the pandemic.
If they don't have money coming in, then they may not be able to justify for themselves, actually caring and taking care of the workers.
Fang Tien took Cultural Care offer to work for a host family for an additional 2 months to avoid being deported or having to pay for a tourist visa herself.
They urged me strongly by showing me the consequences if I don't extend. You have to buy your insurance on your own, and you don't know how long you're gonna wait, and you have no money, no friends here. You'll be alone, you'll be homeless.
In the end, she says, the system let her down. For VOA News, Verónica Valderas Iglesias, Washington.
Well, welcome to the world of business. Green leaf production by factories affiliated to the agency grew by 28.5% for the year ended June 30th, 2020 to stand at 1.448 billion kilograms compared to 1.127 billion kgs over a similar period last year. Kaindo Stefano tells us more.
The growth is attributed to continued favorable weather across tea-growing regions, improved crop husbandry practices among tea farmers, and farmers who have resumed delivering crop to their factories due to better payments and services. This growth came amid a troubled second half of the year that saw global tea prices drop on the back of product oversupply in the market, as well as disruptions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. This include reduced demand for tea across markets, as well as the restrictions on movement of goods and services across the world at the start of the pandemic. As a result, the unit price of agency sold teas for the financial year 2019-2020 fell by 6.8% to an average 12-year low of $2.42 per kilo, compared to $2.59 per kilo in 2019. This is the lowest agency average price since 2008, when the average price per kilo of tea at the auction was $2.17. In the last 3 auctions for the year ended June 2020, the average price for a kilo of tea at the auction dropped below $2, a scenario last seen in 2007. The trend in falling prices is replicated across other markets such as India, Sri Lanka, that have also posted similar price declines as a result of oversupply and the disruptions in the industry. The 54 tea factory companies, which own the 69 factories that are managed by the agency, will proceed to close their financial books for the year and also declare the final payment to each of their tea factory farmers. Reporting for Ebru Business, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Now, the Kenya Revenue Authority is reviewing farms and workers' annual income tax returns for unpaid duty, stepping up a crackdown that could see more tax cheats prosecuted. The Taxman's Intelligence and Enforcement Unit is investigating workers' and businessmen's sources of income and their expenditure against their tax remittances.
The audit involves matching the returns with other databases, including import records, cash trail in bank accounts, motor vehicle registration details, electricity power data, and supply dealings. Firms and individuals doing business with the government and counties and those that declare suppliers' contract to the KRA are particularly on the taxman's radar. This may be done through tax returns review, comprehensive audits or investigations, the outcome of which may include additional assessments or, in the case of fraud, prosecution of the offenders. Besides prosecution, tax cheats could see their personal identification numbers disabled and risk having their cargo blocked at the port of Mombasa, further hurting their ability to do business. The Tax Procedure Act of 2015 allows the taxman to issue travel bans on suspected tax cheats, collect unpaid duty directly from suppliers and bankers of defaulters, and prosecute those in arrears. KRA said it will notify the firms and individuals captured in the probe and offer them time to settle the breaches before punishment. Meter registrations from power generators are helping the taxman identify landlords, some of whom have been slapped with huge tax demands. The taxman also seeks details of suppliers and contractors hired by county government and companies in the quest to tighten the noose on individual and firms evading tax. Companies withhold and pay part of taxes on behalf of the suppliers, offering the KRA data on size of supply contracts and the people behind them. The taxman is racing to bring more people into tax bracket and curb tax dodging and evasions in the quest to meet revenue targets that it has persistently missed in recent years. Reporting for Ebru Business, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Now, Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa today chaired the last of a series of meetings with members from across the country, now aimed at charting a post-COVID-19 return to football plan. The FKF boss met with members from Elgeyo Marakwet, Nakuru, Turkana, Nandi, Kajiado and Narok. The leaders also give their recommendations on how the return to soccer activities can be customized to suit their requirements at the grassroots level. Football still stands suspended since March this year, and the recommendations from the members, alongside the directives from the Ministry of Health, will be incorporated in the final return to football formula.
Kuna mambo ambayo yatabadilika. Kwa mfano, kuna utaratibu na uhitaji ile social distancing inayolazimisha timu za mpira ama wachezaji wanaposafiri watumia at least buses 2. Utapata kwamba pia katika stadium kutahitajika pia some adjustment. Kwa mfano, wachezaji baada ya mchezo hawahitaji kutumia changing room tena.
We really needed to know how we can open up, especially in the grassroots, which is a bit hard because there are a lot of clients, a lot of things are needed so that we can open up.
Well, on that note, we wrap up Ebru Primetime News. Thank you so much for always choosing us to keep you informed. And thanks to everyone who made this bulletin a success. My name is Diana Rachelm. Our sign language interpreter for tonight has been Joyce Wairimo. Do have yourself a lovely night and a fantastic weekend ahead as always. God bless you.